So last year I bought a used 1TB LCD Steam Deck for just $280 and it was my absolute best purchase in a long time. The fact that I could play almost my entire Steam library on a handheld was amazing, especially for someone like me who doesn't have a gaming PC, PlayStation, or Xbox. Plus the horrible battery life was justifiable since I'm always home when playing games and I don't have that much free time to game anyway. So I'm in love with this thing, but the one thing I was really missing was Xbox Game Pass. I'm a huge fan of Game Pass and I think it provides a ton of value for how much you pay. So when the news broke out about the upcoming ROG Xbox LIX, which is a terrible name, I was a little jealous that it's going to have access to all the different game stores including Steam and Game Pass. If you've seen my videos before, I was even exclusively playing Xbox Cloud Gaming as my main gaming medium for a respectable amount of time. Considering that the Steam Deck runs on Linux and Game Pass depends on the Microsoft Store on Windows, natively downloading and installing Game Pass here isn't an option. But with Xbox Cloud Gaming, which is a web-based platform, the cloud gaming part of Game Pass is doable on the Steam Deck. After playing it for a week, my Steam Deck is even better than before and made me realize that I might not need an Xbox handheld anymore. So let's get into how to set it up, the gameplay experience, and how much the battery life improves if you just cloud game on here. So there's a couple of ways you can get Xbox Cloud Gaming to work on the Steam Deck. Of course, you need to be subscribed to the ultimate tier of Game Pass to access cloud gaming. Then you can use a browser like Google Chrome and go straight to xbox.com/play for the cloud gaming library and stream straight from there. But that's not an optimized environment at all, so what's much better is the XBPlay app, which is a third-party app by an independent dev that's available for just $7 on the Steam store or for free from the Desktop Discover store. I do recommend paying the $7 and getting it from the Steam store because the free version is only free for the first 20 minutes and then it prompts you to pay, and those prices are more expensive than the $7 option offered on the Steam store. It's a super simple and static app, but it's really functional. All you gotta do is tap login at the bottom here. You can do that using the QR code and logging into your Microsoft account through the XBPlay phone app, so you don't have to deal with the terrible keyboard on SteamOS. Once you're logged in, you just tap Cloud Play and you get the entire Xbox Cloud Gaming library. This also includes the a la carte titles that you have to buy and own separately, so I do recommend turning on the filter to only show games you can play with your Xbox account. And that's it, you scroll through and just tap the game you want to play. What's a neat little feature here is whenever you try to launch a title, you have the option to add it as a shortcut to your SteamOS menu. So you don't have to go through this XBPlay app every time. You can launch and stream your game right from the main menu, which is really convenient. Once you launch up a game, the load times are actually really fast. I don't know how they did it, but it weirdly feels faster than even the native Xbox Cloud Gaming web app. The devs for XBPlay also did some other crazy black magic to make the streaming quality super sharp, consistent, and smooth. My internet speeds are on the higher side, but even compared to streaming on my other devices, playing Xbox Cloud Gaming through XBPlay on the Steam Deck is the best streaming quality I've experienced so far with the service. This was a huge surprise for me since I didn't know the Steam Deck had that reliable of a Wi-Fi card inside, but apparently it does. Maybe it's the smaller 720p display on the Steam Deck, but I basically haven't ran into any pixelation or artifacting issues when streaming on here. Looks like the devs did do some great optimizations to get the highest bit rates possible because I feel like I'm getting the highest tier of 720p streaming here, where the games look virtually equivalent to actual natively installed games on my Steam Deck. Plus, there are some extra tools available in the menu to adjust scaling, resolution, and sharpness, which is really cool. It's not super useful if you're only playing on the Steam Deck's display itself since it's just 720p, but if you're connecting your Steam Deck to an external monitor, that's where this comes in handy. From this menu, there's a way to conveniently launch and switch to another game straight away too, but besides just the resolution, the devs tuned the Steam Deck's controls really well for Xbox Cloud Gaming. The controls are really responsive. Just like always, the streaming frames per second depends on your internet and what game is being played, since some games are just hosted to be a lot smoother or slower from Microsoft servers. But with XBPlay, every game I've streamed here has been getting as good as performance I can get from the service. For games that are tuned to be whatever frame rate they might be on the servers, such as 30, 45, or 60 FPS, XBPlay on the Steam Deck helps give you the best streaming possible and the input lag is minimal. The inputs are not quite as responsive as the Mac web version, where I could comfortably play Call of Duty multiplayer. The streaming quality is not quite as sharp as the iPad or iOS version, but I will say that the entire experience of XBPlay on the Steam Deck is just more consistent and less filled with occasional disconnects or performance issues. For all other games like co-op, single-player RPGs, or other adventure games, this is the best overall experience I've had with Xbox Cloud Gaming, and I personally feel like it's almost an identical experience to the natively installed games on my Steam Deck. That also applies to the game audio, which is of course compressed, but is done really clean, so it never had any dips or cutoffs so far. Not only that, you're technically unlocking a whole new experience or layer of performance on your Steam Deck, since a lot of these newer AAA titles on Game Pass like Cyberpunk 2077, Jedi Survivor, or Oblivion Remastered simply won't run well or run at all if they're natively installed and played on the Steam Deck. I've honestly been skipping a lot of these new titles since I just know my Steam Deck won't run it that well. Before I buy a game, I'm always searching on Reddit to see how a game runs on the Steam Deck. Now with XBPlay and Game Pass, I don't really have to do that. I can just launch up any game on Game Pass and play without worrying about performance or the price either. The only downside to this cloud gaming experience is that you miss out on the instant sleep wake feature, which is honestly the best part about SteamOS and Steam Deck. If you do put your Steam Deck to sleep while streaming and then you wake it back up, it just crashes all the time and you have to restart the game. Thankfully, since everything is cloud-based, your save files all sync to the cloud on your Xbox account, so you won't have any bad save issues, but it's nearly not as convenient as playing and pausing a native Steam game. Just like how you're unlocking newer games with playable performance with cloud gaming, you're also unlocking better battery life. Since this is just an app that's streaming over video and sending your inputs to some servers, it doesn't use nearly as much power as your natively installed games. You can tell how quiet and little the fans are working when on XBPlay than other Steam games. The Steam Deck still gets warm to the touch, but is nowhere near the temperatures you get on native titles. With a full 100% charge, the Steam Deck usually gets you 1 to 2 hours max of a natively installed AAA title. But with XBPlay, any game you play will get you 4 to 4.5 hours of playtime, which is on par or better than those less demanding 2D indie games that usually get you the best battery life on the Steam Deck. This has made me a lot less battery anxious about gaming on the Steam Deck since I'm mostly cloud gaming these days and I don't have to rush to a charger. So with a monthly Game Pass subscription and XBPlay on the Steam Deck, not only are you unlocking a whole new library of games, you're also getting better performance for most games and also much improved battery life by relying on the cloud instead of pushing your internal hardware. I was starting to feel like my Steam Deck was running out of new games to play, so it was a perfect timing for me to try this out. Of course, it would be much nicer if Microsoft could just release an official Xbox Game Pass app for the Steam Deck, but with them releasing their competing handhelds, I have a feeling that won't happen anytime soon. Anyways, with XBPlay, I might no longer be in the market for those promised Xbox handhelds. I got the Steam Deck for less than $300 and now I can also play Xbox games on it too. So one of my best recent purchases just got even better for $7. So yeah, I think I'm pretty satisfied with the setup as of right now. If you also have a Steam Deck with great Wi-Fi and you've been looking for some new games, I highly recommend checking out XBPlay on the Steam store. My expectations were honestly pretty low, but the experience has been that good that I really wanted to make this video to highlight it. Okay, that's going to do it for this video. Let me know in the comments what your experience has been like cloud gaming on the Steam Deck. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more fun tech videos like this, and I'll see you guys on the next video.